for tuning in with Druthers. I'm here with Kyle. He's one of the victims who got brutally attacked by the RCMP officer. Tell us your story here, Kyle.
Well, I was, as usual, the people who know me in the movement in Toronto, I've been the one who's the cop talker. I'm the one that talks to the police and our people to keep everything peaceful, to make sure our people don't get arrested and touch the police. But the Friday where the police came in with all the different police forces and the RCMP emergency response team, which they look like soldiers with carbines on the front, with rifles in the front of their body. So I was one of the people that had my back to the police to try to keep our people from making contact with the police, communicating with those police officers, explaining to them that these are their people, and communicating with our people just to not touch the police if they touch us, because they can be arrested for that. So I've always been promoting the peaceful communication with police, but I became a victim like other people because I had my back to the Quebec police in the green jumpsuits, and the soldiers that came from behind, they grabbed us through and they immediately started beating us with their rifles and their boots and their knees on the ground in order to get us zip tied in these right here. So the police allowed me to keep this souvenir after they released us because they realized that some of us didn't deserve to be there and they didn't approve of it. But all those officers that were there stood by while those police officers that came in that were looked like soldiers, those police officers stood by while civilians were beaten and illegally arrested and taken away and detained. But then they were all let go with no charges, most of them, because it was just meant to be a beating to scare people away from coming back. So we were told to go home and we wouldn't be arrested. But we were arrested, detained, and beaten. So people like myself suffered rib injuries from being kneed in the ribs while we were on the ground, face down, faces in the snow, and they were applying the boots to us. So I saw the same exact story from the veteran that you see that had the medals, and he was telling his story. Same thing, but I was the first one grabbed because my back was to them stupidly, because I trusted that I wouldn't be grabbed for being, promoting the police communications. So I know the Druthers people know that I've been doing that for the last 2 years in Toronto, but this time I fell victim to those police that do not care about the law and anybody's rights. So I was one of those people. I was fortunate that I wasn't hurt badly, but my ribs are still sore a week and a day later, and I'm just recovering from the rifle that hit me in the head. And you could see me in that video from the post-millennial being beaten and on the ground. You can't see me, but you can see them applying a rifle to somebody and people in the crowd saying, "Hey, you don't have to hit him like that." So unfortunately, everybody received the same treatment in that line of about 100 people.
Now, were you hospitalized, or how did that go?
No, I wasn't hospitalized. I think fortunately the soldier that was beating me was on his knees to like in a wrestling move. He was on top of me, giving me knees like in an MMA match, and at the same time using his rifle to hit me in order to get me to put my hands behind my back. But it's hard to get your hands behind your back when your head is being smashed into the pavement by a boot. So I'm fortunate that in my sports and my life that I probably hurt myself more with my wipeouts and athletics. But it's terrifying to see that a lot of people showed up there to be a peaceful protester and they were treated like criminals, when in fact the people that were criminals were the people that were laying the beating on the civilians.
So were any more beside you that got hurt just like you, or just you?
I would say there was probably 100 people there that were grabbed in the same fashion. Everybody I saw had some blood coming from them, and my nose is bloody. My nose is bloodied, and obviously I had cuts on the side of my head. But so I was as shocked as anybody, especially considering I've been promoting a peaceful dialogue between the police. So I paid for it that day.
So the people around you, they came and supported you afterwards when you got attacked?
Well, yes, I managed to come back around, and I had to tell those officers that stood by. I had to come back at night and say, you all stood by while thugs came and attacked people with rifles and boots and zip ties. And I gave them a piece of my mind. I didn't use any vulgarity. We always have to take the higher ground. That's what our people do. We take the higher ground. We have to be peaceful with the police and everybody else. We don't act aggressively or use foul language with these people. No matter what, we're the peaceful ones. We'll show who's the peaceful and who are the better people with our actions. So everybody was supportive, and they saw what happened. But it happened to so many of us. So we were just talking about it afterwards.
So you still in contact with those people who got attacked?
There's another gentleman here that the same thing happened to him, so we could talk to him as well. Daniel was another one of the gentlemen that I was up at the front line with, trying to keep the peace. But they grabbed the people like myself. They grabbed all of us up the front. They didn't care. They just grabbed anybody who was up there. They wanted to grab them, beat them up, and put them in zip ties, threatening them with charges. But they ended up releasing most of the people afterwards and just kicking them to the curb. So basically, it was an extremely violent spanking with rifles and boots and knees to the body. So I thought about it a lot, and I want to say thank you to all the people that tried to keep me from being pulled over through the police. Enough of our people had their hands on my arms and legs, and they were fighting for me. So it really choked me up that those people all fought to keep me away from the police, but unfortunately the police grabbed me by the neck and pulled me through their line, and they beat the hell out of us when we were behind their line of officers. So I really want to thank everybody who was there. I have a ton of respect and love for you all and the people who tried to keep me from being beaten. That was the right thing to do, is to pull your people back, because whoever didn't get pulled back got the hell beat out of them and got hit with rifles and knees and everything.
Now, do you recall the uniforms these guys were wearing? Were they dark green uniforms, or?
Well, the guys in the dark green onesies, as I like to call it, those guys were the Quebec police, and it seemed like they were observing the crowd and listening to us, and you could tell that there was some hesitancy in them, and they weren't being overtly aggressive. But the officers, or the police that look more like military, who are wearing like the sandy colored uniforms that look like they're soldiers, those are the ones that use the Quebec police as a wall, and they could come over and cherry pick and just pull anybody who got too close. So they were actually pulling the people in and beating them. The Quebec police in the green were simply the wall pushing people. They were not actually the ones that beat the people. It was the soldiers behind them. So they had a strategy coming in that I never saw before, but now I know what that strategy is.
So now that you recognize it, you could actually recognize it from afar.
Well, absolutely. Now we know that they've crossed the line. They really went way too far, and now that we know that that's possible, we'll know what to look for next time, so we can keep our people safe. If there is a next time, if they decide to use these kinds of soldiers again, that would be a sad mistake. Sad mistake.
Now, where was the site of the incident? Whereabouts was it?
It was right on. It was east of the Parliament building, right in front of the Fairmont Hotel. That's where the line was. So the line at the Fairmont was fairly wide, and you had a lot of people there. You had women, you had people that were peaceful protesters, and none of them were making any contact with the police at all. But the police kept taking an inch and a foot and an inch and a foot. Someone convinced all of the people that they must hold the line and stay there and challenge the police, when it might have been better for them to turn around and start a dance party or something and allow the police to attack a bunch of people who are dancing instead of challenging them. So we tried to suggest that there would be other things to do than challenge the police with a line of civilians who don't have sticks and clubs, pepper spray. They had tear gas launchers, these police, and they had these zip ties. They all had these hanging off their belts. So they were prepared to go in and grab people and zip tie them, because they don't have enough handcuffs to grab all those people. So it's purely an illegal act what they do. Everything about that was illegal.
Yes, and we've seen that all over that whole weekend. I actually seen some of it, witnessed it myself, and it totally couldn't believe what I saw. So having saw the experience that you went through, do you think you'll come out of it?
Well, absolutely. And the people that are here, we're of all the same mind. We're the patriots of this country, who are multiple generations deep, from veterans, police, doctors, nurses like myself, people who built this country, people who keep this country going and defend it, are the people that are the grandkids and the kids, and those people were all out there. That's what was different about this group of people. These were all the patriots in this country who came here to stand up for the freedoms that our families fought for and worked hard to build in this country. So it was the best group of people I've met my whole life in this country that I met there, and they did not deserve to be treated like they were a bunch of criminals and beaten like they were a bunch of, like they were a bunch of criminals and a bunch of thugs. So the thugs were really those Quebec police, but it was mostly those RCMP ERT officers, the ERT, the Emergency Response Team. Those were the gentlemen that had the carbine rifles mounted on the front of their uniforms, and those are the ones that were using the non-business end of the rifles to keep people subdued on the ground and get them to put their hands behind their backs. So you had to put your hands behind your back or you were going to get a rifle butt to the head. That's what happened to many of us.
I just can't imagine myself going through that, but really commend you for going there and speaking to us about it, and commend you for it, and God bless you on your travels back home.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be here for a bit in Ottawa, but say hi to all the guys in Toronto, and all you Druthers guys are awesome. Sean, Jason, all those guys. Love you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for everything, what you did. Signing out here, Henry Balash, here at the encampment, which we just came about a couple hours ago, is starting the parking lot starting to fill up here. So I'll be probably doing one more live stream after this one. Signing out, over and out, Henry Balash. Go over to Druthers News and Information and druthers.net.